The Arena, a multi-platform gaming news podcast, is brought to you by, well, of course, you. If you want to learn more about how you can support the show, go to patreon.com/expat2020. Hey everyone, this is The Arena, Multiplatform Gaming News Podcast. This is episode 17. I'm your host, Expat2020, along with my co-host, Dan. Dan, how you doing, man?
Not too bad, dude. How you getting on?
Doing good. The weather yesterday, it was kind of like an anomaly, man. It was really, really warm over here yesterday. It was like 24 degrees.
Wow.
Or in the U.S., we would say about maybe 73, 74 degrees.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then the weather temperature started going down again today. But
right.
Yeah. How about for you over there?
It was pretty miserable yesterday. It's very cold, very wet, freezing cold rain. I got very wet cycling home from work. But yeah, generally it's been all right.
Yeah, it's been pretty dry over here. We haven't had any rain for about a week and a half. So it's been quite dry. So... Yeah, and I was, today, earlier in the afternoon, I was walking over to Yodobashi, which is one of the big electronics store chains. And, I noticed that still no PlayStations. I heard that only 2 days ago, they put the displays up for PlayStation 5s. They had 2 PlayStation 5s in display cases, and they finally got those out. But no stock of PS5s. And, what's interesting is lots of Xbox Series X were delivered again today. Yeah. And I saw about 6 people buying Xbox Series X's.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't know. Fools.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know whether it's the lack of stock that they can get into the stores or whether they're just sold out. I don't know.
Well, Sony have announced that every single PS5 produced so far has been bought. So everyone they've made has been sold and bought by someone. So that's why you can't find any in shops, because they've already gone. And it's like you, like what happened with you though. You didn't go out to buy an Xbox. You went there. You saw that there were no PS5s. You saw that there was an Xbox, so you bought an Xbox. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know exactly when they're going to start getting any stock in. My prediction is probably early December, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a safe bet.
Yeah, we'll see.
But they'll be trying to crunch it out as much as they can because, hype is still high. Hype is still very high at the moment.
Hype.
Yeah.
Okay, before jumping into what Dan and I have been playing, I want to tell everyone out there that you can head over to the Arena, Multiplatform Gaming News Podcast, where you can find us on any podcast app for iOS or Android, as well as on Spotify. Just download your favorite podcast app or open Spotify and search for The Arena, a multi-platform gaming news podcast. Subscribe, follow us, post a review, and leave us questions, comments, and feedback if you like, if that feature is available there, and spread the word about the podcast. We also have a website for the podcast at expat2020.podbean.com, where you can follow us and leave questions and comments as well. Also, if you'd like to support the show and become a patron to get early access to every episode and listen ad-free, along with other perks, including the post-show, which today we're going to be doing a post-show, which will go exclusively to Patreon. Please visit patreon.com/expat2020 for further details. And you can also follow us on Twitter at The Arena AMPGNP, which stands for Multi-Platform Gaming News Podcast. Finally, the podcast will also be uploaded to my YouTube channel at Expat2020 Gaming, so you can go there to listen and subscribe and click that notification bell for future podcast episodes, and also leave any comments or questions you might have that we might read on a future episode. So, Dan, I've been playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Of course you have.
And I've been playing it on the Xbox Series X. And yeah, it's like night and day from playing it on the Xbox One X.
Now, I'm going to call BS on that.
Why?
Well, like, I don't really. It's night and day. Really? Do you really mean that?
If you let me continue, I can explain.
Okay, explain to me how a slight increase of resolution is like a whole new thing. Go on.
Well, that's just one thing. For me, what's night and day about this is the loading speed.
All right.
The SSD drive is amazing. Just imagine on the Xbox One X, before I got the Series X, I was playing Valhalla. From, say, I'll give you an example of a fast travel.
Okay.
Fast travel is about 20 seconds loading time. Xbox Series X, 3 seconds.
Wow.
That is very, very fast. And yeah. So, I mean, I'm really loving that. I mean, the speed of opening up applications, opening up games, the loading speeds between fast travel or just beginning the game, it's amazing. I mean, it's really, really fast.
That's super.
Yeah, the resolution, there's some slight improvements. It's basically native 4K 60 frames per second now on the Series X. So there is that bump in resolution. But yeah, the SSD is what really kills it. I mean, it's sweet. I don't have the PS5 yet. I'm looking forward to getting it in the near future, but I would imagine the games there load just as fast or even maybe a bit faster. I don't know, but from the comparisons, I think the PlayStation SSD was a little bit faster, but yeah, it's amazingly fast. So I'm enjoying it. When it comes to the game itself, I'm really enjoying the story. Like we were talking about when it comes to the Assassin's Creed series, the Assassin's Creed game. I mean, in Valhalla, you do have lots of different choices that may impact the game. For example, I was in my settlement, and one of the main things you need to do is to build your settlement up. But in the settlement, your settlement gets raided in one of the parts of the games, and you have to, quell off the attack. And then at the end of the attack, basically, you have a choice whether to kill the remaining survivor or send him back to his people, send him back to the Danes, and have scouts go with him to, kind of scan the area and everything. So those have implications to the story, which is really interesting. I like that. The skill tree is this huge, kind of like a network, like a spider web type of network of different abilities that you have. So it's not only an improvement, but it expands upon the abilities that you had in like Assassin's Creed Odyssey. When it comes to choosing between a male and female, there's actually a third choice. And that third choice at the very beginning of the game, in the middle, it's basically let the animus decide.
Yeah.
So let the animus decide whether you're going to play in the beginning as a female Eivor or as a male Eivor. And I don't know why it chose a female Eivor for me in the beginning, but from what I've heard from other players, it seems like later on in the game, you'll be switching between female and male Eivors. I don't know. I haven't gotten that far yet. I'm about 15 hours in at the moment. So,
but again, is that going to will that make any difference at all? It just, again, I'm still trying to get my head around the whole switching thing.
I can't explain it yet. I mean, until I get to that point and I start, making choices or whatever as a male Eivor, I don't know.
I mean, it literally just seems like a skin, interesting.
Yeah, it could be.
You were upset with what you weren't upset. You were talking about the color palette and general look and design of the game. How do you feel about it now? Because you said it was like a bit a bit drab compared to the other ones.
Yeah, it's a bit better. I mean, especially like the shadows and, for example, the sunlight, things like that. It's a little bit better, and I think it shows more when it's playing in at 60 frames per second.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some slight improvements there. But the water is a little bit better looking in the game, but the buildings, for example, the castles, how the light reflects off the castles and things like that stands out a bit more. So, yeah, and I mean, basically, there are, I guess, the only negative I would have to say, there are some redundant missions, and that is a part of the Assassin's Creed series in itself. Basically, now it's raids. You're raiding particular areas of England to, build up your, your wealth, so that you can expand your settlement. Okay. So, I mean, you're doing that a lot in the early stages of the game, especially. But yeah, so yeah, Assassin's Creed Valhalla for me. How about you, Dan? What are you playing?
I finished Judgment. Or did I finish Judgment last week? I finished Judgment. That was quite good. Yep. I've been playing a new AAA title.
Ooh.
I got a new hype. I got a new AAA title. That's tragic.
I'm shocked.
I've been playing Sakuna of Rice and Ruin.
Oh.
And it's been good.
How is it? I've never played it. How is it?
It's lots of fun. Yeah. So two of my favorite things: farming and platform games. Well, it's not really. Yeah, it's a platform game. Yeah, it is.
So how closely niched is it with Japanese culture?
Very, very, and more. And tell you what, it's the most in-depth rice growing simulator known to man. It's ridiculous. They've really done the research on how rice is made and different factors that affect rice production. And there's a lot going on to make the perfect rice crop. There's loads of it. So, yeah.
How similar of a game is it to, say, like Farming Simulator or maybe like a Stardew Valley or something like that?
It's closer in spirit to Stardew Valley, I suppose. I mean, the only farming is you only make rice. That's all you do. You get one little rice paddy, and it's up to you to do it. But it's like I said, it's very deep. So at first you are kind of like, oh, I've got one little rice paddy, but there's so much to do, and But it's a very even split. It's 50-50 farming and platforming, and the farming you do directly affects how your character levels up. And so if you get a really good rice crop, at the end of the year, when your character levels up, it will take all these extra attributes and apply them to your character. So, yeah, it's really good. Having lots of fun with it. And there's like bosses and, it's a bit hack and slash. And, it's lots of fun. I've been streaming it on Twitch a little bit. It's a good game. Yeah, I recommend it.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right, let's jump into the news beat. So the first story this week, Capcom employee info and game details were exposed by severe ransomware attack. So, yeah. And one thing about this is that a lot of game information was revealed. Yeah. But basically, when it comes to the compromised data, they were saying some logs were lost, but no credit card information was lost or anything like that. But some people might have had, for example, their address information or telephone number information, things like that, birth dates or whatever, compromised. But basically, what I'd like to talk about is some of the information that was apparently leaked in this ransomware attack, particularly some of the game information. Like, for example, they discussed a new Ace Attorney collection for PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch.
Oh, yeah, part
Resident,
2. Sorry.
Yeah, Resident Evil 4 for Oculus VR. Yeah, that would be interesting. And a PC release for Monster Hunter Rise and Monster Hunter Stories 2. So yeah, I think, and one other thing they did discuss as well was the money that apparently Google has been shelling out to Capcom to get Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8 on Google Stadia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think it was like 600,000 for Resident Evil 7 and then 1.4 million for the new
Bloody hell.
Resident Evil 8 Village. It's supposedly, from the leak, is supposed to be coming out in April of next year.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. But crazy times. I don't know if this is kind of like I was saying before, like an anomaly in a sense, or if this is going to become more of the norm, seeing, game developing companies hacked like this for this type of information, especially with the, COVID going on and everything. What do you think, Dan?
I don't know. This is not really my thing. I mean, I'm surprised that's all they found there. I'm a bit underwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like, Capcom was hacked, and it's like, well, most of that we already knew. The only surprise there is the Resi 4 stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the biggest shock of this story is how bland Capcom's upcoming release list is.
Well, they did actually. There was one more, like a new Nintendo Switch IP named Guillotine.
Okay.
But there were not many details to the game itself. But
oh, okay.
Yeah, that's I'm kind of surprised as well that not like more serious information was leaked, like credit card information, things like that. Because usually when it comes to ransomware attacks, they usually go all in and say, okay, give us this amount of money, or we're going to release this information to everybody else. So
meh.
Yeah, exactly, man. All right. Okay, second story on the list today. Jim Ryan, who's the PlayStation CEO, Sony CEO. Yeah. Basically, he was talking about $70 games being a fair price.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think of that, Dan? $70, is that a fair price for a game now?
I love it. Well, of course he says that.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I think £1,000 for each of our podcasts is a fair price.
Mm-hmm.
What the person who holds the item says decides a fair price, that's not for him to decide. The market decides what's a fair price. So again, we've talked about this already, but
yeah.
I mean, you can have a $70 game, fair enough. You won't sell many of them. Everyone will just wait until it's £35, like most people do now. So,
yeah. Did you see? Now PlayStation has a Black Friday sale going on, and it's like Watch Dogs is down to $40.
Yeah.
And here's the big one: Marvel's Avengers down to $29 now.
Yeah, good. When will you learn, you greedy bastards? I'm so glad that game has failed. Hopefully, that's the nail in the coffin of complete bullshit live services. I mean, they took a bath on that. Good. Stop making games as just purely money-making endeavors. It's shameful. But no. Yeah, I mean, of course he does. Yeah, but it's not true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like, some of the arguments are that, inflation, like, for example, you get what was it? The $60 gold standard started when, like in the mid 2000s, right? 2005, something like that.
Yeah.
And then even before that, it was like $50, right? So like in the late 90s or whatever. So, like if you tap on inflation to that, to today's, like price, a $50 game would be like $80 today. So that's one of the arguments that goes on. And then of course, they talk about, well, the problem is that, the reason why the $60 game is been a problem is because of, that led to all of the loot boxes and microtransactions in games and stuff like that. So if you were to raise the prices of games, then you wouldn't have that.
No.
Yeah. I'm just
Don't
saying, man.
believe it.
These are the arguments. Yeah.
Don't believe a fucking word of that. Games will. I'm telling you now. They will make games $100 each. You will still have microtransactions in them.
Yeah.
It's utter bullshit.
And that's where they're going with this. That's where they want to go. I mean, that's the $100 game. I mean, it's like
we already have that though.
Yeah, I mean, the gold editions, the ultimate edition,
look on
things like that.
PlayStation N right now, the network right now. There are £95 games on there. Yeah. It's bonkers. Shut the right. The inflation argument. The inflation argument doesn't work either, because now we have never had as many people playing games as we have now. We've never had as many people with expendable income as we have now. It doesn't wash. There are more people buying games. So it's fair enough going, it cost us this much to make money. Yeah, and you're selling friggin' 10 times as many.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's
like none of these people are hurting for money. None of them are going, I can't afford to feed my kids. They're all got multi-million-dollar payouts and friggin' yearly bonuses. Piss off with it.
Yeah.
You thieving bastards. No one asked for like these ridiculous 110-hour epic generic as F games that you want to charge 70 quid for. Get out of here. It didn't work for the PS5. I only actually saw one game that was 70. I think Demon Souls is the only game that's ridiculously overpriced. I think Assassin's Creed was like £55. I think what else have I seen? I think Miles Morales was maybe 60. But everything else, all other launch titles haven't been the threatened £70 price level.
Yeah, actually, I think Miles Morales is 50.
Right.
I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But it's like Jim Ryan was like saying that he felt it was a fair price given the hours of entertainment received.
Not true.
So, not true.
Well, that's a hard thing to say because you can have games that are 110 hours long that are boring as shit.
Yeah.
That's not good value. I mean, anyone with half a brain would rather have, 15 roller coaster awesome hours instead of 120. I mean, that's one of the criticisms aimed at the Assassin's Creed series as it stands now. You've got possibly 100-hour long game, but of that, it's repetitive, quota box ticking and fetch quests, that sort of thing. And it's like, well, I'm sure we'd rather have a nice, like the God of War game that came out a few years ago. That's not particularly long.
Yeah.
And there's nothing arbitrary in it. It's a very tightly focused game.
Yeah, it was about 20 hours, I think, at the most.
Yeah, it's not particularly massive.
Yeah.
But and that is worth the same money as, say, a game that's needlessly padded out with what's supposed to be content, but is just generic missions, I suppose. Yeah. But no, of course he does. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. I think paying me for my job £1 million a year is a fair price. That's how thinking fair prices work. Unfortunately, the real world goes, nah, F off.
Exactly.
Yeah. So bless his heart, of course he does.
Yeah. He's been in a lot of hot water the past week or so. I mean,
what's he done?
He was kind of also with the storage situation. Because he was just kind of mood on the situation there because apparently the situation now with the hard disk situation, like on the Series X, for example, you can take a game like a Series X game and you can put it on your external hard disk.
Yeah.
And then you can transfer it, you can play it. Whereas apparently with the PS5 games, you can't do that with external hard disk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, why? Why not? And he's just been mood on that. Yeah. So.
Well, I guess, but I mean, currently there are about 4 games to play. So.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be really needing it. But yeah, no, that is odd. But
Yeah. Okay, let's get to the next story. So we're going to just briefly get on this because in a couple of weeks, we're going to be doing our own Game of the Year episodes. But of course, the Game Awards, and, I call him Jeff Kojima Keighley.
He does love himself some Kojima.
Yeah, and he came out, I should say, with the nominees for the Game Awards for this year, which are going to be on December 10th. Yeah. But I'm telling you right now, if you look at the main web page for the Game Awards, at the very top of the page, I'm going to tell you right now, at the top of the page, you see the actual statue for the Game Award.
Right.
And then you see the ocean, and then you see the red sun above, like setting on the ocean. Okay. I'm telling you right now, Ghost of Tsushima is going to win Game of the Year.
Okay.
That's telling you it all right there. I mean,
probably.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think. Well, let me just list off. I don't want to. Maybe during the post show, and maybe in a couple of weeks when we do the Game of the Year episode, we can go through some of the other nominee listings. But the Game of the Year nominees, for example, there are 6 games: Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades. Now, Hades is from Supergiant Games. Supergiant Games are known for Bastion, Transistor, Pyre.
Yeah.
So, Animal Crossing: New Horizons, and The Last of Us Part 2. So, what do you think of that list, Dan?
Hades has been out for about 20 minutes.
Well, it came out in like a game preview in 2018 for for Nintendo Switch, I think it was. But yeah, and then it launched again this year.
Right.
So, but
yeah. Well, Doom Eternal should not be on this list. Doom Eternal.
Why do you say that? Yeah.
Was poo. Like Doom, I don't know. I don't know how that snuck on there. I think Jeff Key was like, "Oh, I like that. I'm going to put that on the list." Doom Eternal, no. I mean, there are so many games that deserve to be on this list, and Doom Eternal is not one of them.
Why? I don't know why Final Fantasy VII Remake is on this list.
I can understand. Who decides what goes on here anyway? I never
Jeff
really
Keighley and yeah. Maybe.
I wonder how it works. But anyway, meh. That's I mean, Last of Us, no chance of winning anything. Animal Crossing, no chance of winning because it's a Nintendo game. And there's general snobbery about that. It should do because it's pretty amazing. And coming out right at the beginning of the lockdown, the pandemic was beautiful timing because I mean. I think Animal Crossing has sold pretty much more than all of those other games put together, I think. Because Animal Crossing was like number 1 in the sales charts for 6 months globally afterwards it came out.
It's in the multiplayer category as well, too. So
what? Okay, that's weird. But yeah. No, you're probably right about Ghosts. If I was a betting man, my money would be on Ghosts.
Yeah.
Maybe Final Fantasy to appease the weeboos, but yeah.
Just my opinion, and I think it's going to come down to either Ghost of Tsushima or Last of Us Part 2. Their PlayStation, for their first party PlayStation games, and I don't know. That's.
I think the beating that Last of Us Part 2 took, in terms of its story and its
you either loved it or you hated it.
Well, but then I've not met anyone that loved it. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed playing it. Don't get me wrong, and it was interesting. And some of the socio-cultural issues presented in it, and the people claimed of like forced diversity.
Yeah,
and I mean, they've got a point. There was a lot of diversity. Whether that's a detriment, I don't know. I can't really comment on that. I find it interesting because to see and hear about the struggles that some of these people might be having and stuff was quite interesting. But I think that's going to be a massive detriment to it in terms of winning. But then again, maybe they will award it something to appear progressive. I don't know. It's a tricky one, that.
Yeah.
But I reckon Tsushima's probably going to get it. It's either 50-50 or the Final Fantasy 7, I reckon.
Yeah. Well, of all of the categories, PlayStation has 22 nominations.
Bugger.
Whereas Xbox has 8.
Sounds about right.
I think Switch has like 5 or something.
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
But then again,
I don't know.
Switch doesn't care because Switch, not being funny, Switch has already won. Switch has won 2020. Switch has won hardware 2020. Switch has won game sales 2020. The Switch does not give a toss about the video game awards. It doesn't even register to Nintendo. They've won hands down, handily. They've won this year.
Yeah. And what I saw too is with these lists of the nominees and everything in the Game Awards, a lot of esports categories this year. So yeah, just tons of esports. Yeah, I mean it's like best esports coach.
I mean, is there anything as tragic? Okay,
I just
never mind.
Whatever. I mean, yeah,
it couldn't be more whatever. If
yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah, that's like usually when they would have the live show, it's like they would skip over that stuff, like like during the Oscars, it's like sound editing, blah blah blah, stuff like that. It's like this person won, but next,
Yeah.
But I don't know.
There's a category for best ongoing, so games they keep patching out and developing.
Yeah.
If No Man's Sky doesn't win that, they've been paid off.
Yeah.
Because Apex Legends, I didn't even know was still going. So brilliant. Destiny 2, Grindfest, meh. Call of Duty Warzone is a microtransaction fest, tedious.
Yep.
Fortnite is still Fortnite.
Yep.
No Man's Sky is a completely different game each time they bring a patch for it. It's nuts now. And if it don't get it, then someone's paid them off. Because Jesus wept. The difference that every patch, every update they bring to that game is enormous. It's staggering. So
yeah. And then indie games, for example, Carrion, Fall Guys, Ultimate Knockout, Hades, Splunky 2, and
Hades
Spiritfarer. I think Hades is going to win that one.
For sure.
Yeah. So best VR. Interesting. Dreams. Half-Life Alyx, Marvel's Iron Man VR, Star Wars Squadrons, and The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners.
Yeah.
I think Half-Life Alyx is probably going to win that. That was pretty good.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, it was pretty big on the PC end. So from Valve. But okay, so that's some of the Game Award nominees and discussing the Game of the Year nominees especially. So let's go ahead and jump into our topic of the show. So our topic of the show this week is, of course, video gaming can benefit mental health, finds Oxford academics. So apparently the Oxford study, they focused primarily on 2 games, though. Animal Crossing and Plants vs. Zombies, Battle for Neighborville. So what they did, though, which was kind of a first, was getting actual playtime data. And they were able to use the internet connectivity to, for example, make psychological questionnaires. So that focused on self-reported time playing, for example. I think this is really interesting, and I think this is a good start. But I think Animal Crossing and Plants vs. Zombies, I think they need to expand on the titles that are being used for this particular type of study. I don't know. What do you think, Dan? Yeah.
Well, it's quite interesting because a while ago, I So I'm a believer that obviously video games do way more good. They're way more beneficial than the harm they, in theory, do. So this isn't much of a surprise. In fact, I did a talk about this not so long ago at the Centre for Community History about the whole. It's interesting because like where we are now, famously, like games are demonized, like still inexplicably poisoning our youth, linked to crime, linked to addiction. And again, don't even get me started on video game addiction. There aren't enough quote marks on earth to put around video game addiction. Video game addiction is absolutely nonsense.
And before you go on, I'm sorry, I just want to add one point to that and especially in other countries as well, you have societies, particularly out here in Japan, that are so, paranoid about particular types of video games that they edit and they cut out particular scenes from video games, like say Grand Theft Auto or like some of the horror games. That might have a negative impact on people playing the game, which to me, I don't understand, because I mean, you go to a manga shop and you look in a manga and you see, explicit scenes and things like that, but then a video game has to be cut. Anyway, go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I don't know. I've totally lost my thread now, but I don't even know where to go with that. But yeah, no, it's I think it's a definite thing. I mean, like you said, they only did a test with 2 games, and they're 2 very chill games. You should always be very wary of any study purporting this sort of stuff, because I mean, there's a whole wide gamut of people and people playing them, but it's obviously horses for courses, but I think by far people do get a benefit from playing these games, especially Animal Crossing coming out when it did. That was amazing.
Oh yeah, For a lot of
especially with the world being an absolute nightmare shitfest that it was at the time. Well, still is. It was a massive anesthetic against all the horrible stuff. It's a nice way to a nice form of escapism. Escape is nice, colourful, primary colour world of very minimal demands on the player. Very expressive, very creative game. So yeah, it's weird.
So my question to you is, what kind of games do you think they should use for this study to try to figure out what would make a negative mental impact on particular gamers and players?
Well, famously, in the past, so there've been a few assaults on gaming disguised as psychological studies. So famously, there were a lot of things like Wolfenstein and Doom and Mortal Kombat in some studies. So what they used to do to try and prove like the negative down, so they always relied on aggression as the metric for what happened. So what they used to have these three tests. Have we talked about this? I can't remember. Maybe we talked about this before. But anyways, the speed version is back in the day, they had 3 ways to test aggression in video games. They had the hot source test, they had the white noise test, and they had sentence completion testing. So the hot source test is a player was given half an hour on Doom. I think that's Wolfenstein, so that's a very long time ago. So I had Wolfenstein. Another person played, I think it was a racing game, like a driving game maybe, or like a gentle puzzle game. 2 games that aren't comparable. They're unreasonable because Doom is a fast-moving, high-energy game, and a puzzle game isn't that. Now, you can have fast-moving, high-requirement puzzle games as well, but they didn't choose that. They chose the wrong games. So the player played this game, and they were given the task of pouring hot sauce into a cup, and that cup was given to a person who hated hot sauce but had to drink it. And the theory was, the more aggressive you are, the more hot sauce you put into a cup. I mean, that's so flawed, I can't even begin to describe. And of course, the academic psychologists all closed ranks and went, no, this is a really good idea. And of course it isn't, piss off. Because I quite like hot sauce. So for me, a lot of hot sauce, wink, wink, is not much. My girlfriend friggin' loves spicy food. She'd happily drink a friggin' litre of the stuff. So when she goes hot sauce, she'd like, "Oh, get me another 10 gallons of this stuff." So that was nonsensical. The white noise test is basically two players are given. Again, two players are given a game. One's supposed to be violent, one's not violent, and then you play another game where you have to mash a button really fast, and the winner of the second game gets to blast the other player with very loud white noise. So they get a big button and say, "Okay, press this button to torture your opponent." Right? And in theory, exactly. And in theory, the longer you held that button down for, the more aggressive you are. Trouble is, it didn't happen. The difference between the person who played an aggressive game and the person who played a puzzle game was less than a blink of an eye. There was a 0.16 second difference between the two players.
Wow.
A blink of an eye is like 0.2 seconds.
Yeah.
And also, it was a joke the whole time because there was no torture player. It was randomly generated whether the player would win or lose their button mashing test. Yeah. So that was debunked. So far we've had two tests. Both of them didn't prove a gaming caused aggression. And finally, the third test was sentence completion. Basically, you had Sally went home and she did, and then the player had to fill in the blanks. And the idea was that if you played Doom, you would write Sally went home and killed her parents with an axe.
Yeah.
And if you play Tetris, you wrote Sally went home and did all the homework and kissed her mother goodnight and became a nun.
Yeah.
And of course, that was utterly inconclusive and nonsensical as well. So we need way more studies. We need more studies that aren't complete bullshit. But unfortunately, there's only one way to test aggression, and you're not allowed to give a kid a baseball bat and say, "Go beat this other kid around the head," which is the only true test of aggression. So, we need more insight. There have been other studies into the benefits of gaming, particularly young people, disenfranchised people, people with special needs, people with learning difficulties. The studies, it's overwhelming the positive aspect of gaming has had on these people.
How about veterans with PTSD?
Oh yeah, I've not looked into this, but I've read the headlines. Yeah, that's amazing as well. Yeah, so VR.
Yeah, I'd love to see studies on that. Like, let them just sit there for hours playing Call of Duty.
I'm not sure Call of Duty would help.
That's
I was going to recommend not to play.
But I mean, just give them Call of Duty and go at it and see, how much of a negative impact it would have, or no impact, or whatever.
Yeah. But obviously, look into this yourselves. If you are interested in this, and look at the hilarious bullshit psychological studies that have happened so far, go have a look. Look up the hot sauce test and look up the data they got from it. It's laughably bad. Basically, every video games cause aggression thesis argument has been utterly just destroyed. And they will tell you it's significant data. Now, significant data, that's quite a wobbly term. And look into it. Look in the data. It doesn't support. So this is why you should treat this one equally with a pinch of salt. You can't just cherry pick data, and you can't just cherry pick studies. So I've not looked into this one. I've looked into the other ones, the aggression ones, quite a bit. Obviously, in preparation for that talk I gave at the center, I'll have to look a bit more into this one. But
this seems to be very, in the very early stages.
But we already know it can be used for good, just as
Yeah, but nonetheless, it's very positive.
We like it.
Results,
we need more of it. Yeah, more positive stuff about gaming and games in general is good because again, it's still too much. It's still viewed negatively, inexplicably.
Negatively by people who have never played a video game in their life.
That's annoying. Yeah. How many games have you played? None. All right, and piss off. You're not allowed an opinion.
Exactly. Yeah. Go home. Yeah. Okay, so that was our topic of the week. So next up is Dan's retro topic of the week. Take it away, Dan.
Just a quick one, because this episode's going to be crazy long.
Retro topic of the week.
Retro topic of the week. That's good. Bye, Dan. Yeah, no, I saw a headline the other day, actually, that like, this is why I hate video game journalism. And again, video game journalism is probably my favourite oxymoron, because it's complete bollocks.
They're going to love us now, man.
Sodom. It's embarrassing. Anyway, move on. Like, again, Reddit, Twitch, YouTube, that's where you get your video game information from, not video game journalists. If anyone's a self-professed video game journalist, avoid them like the plague, because they're probably some sort of weird fetishist or furry or something. I don't know, just steer clear. Some sort of self-important douchebag. What was I even saying? Oh yeah. So
retro topic.
I hate video game journalists and journalism. I may have mentioned that before. It threw me. It's the headline read. It was obviously clickbait, but it was like, does the PS5 have the best launch lineup in history?
Oh goodness!
And Jesus Christ, no. It's not even. It was obviously clickbait headline to get us reading and go, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But no, very, very, very much no. It's really bad. Obviously, we've talked this a few times actually, and it's an ongoing discussion at work, because we know people at work who've like bought PS5s and Xbox Series X's, and bafflingly, because there's nothing to play on them.
Dan, you just surprised me, man.
I know. I had to stop.
You did it. You did it. You said it right.
I had to concentrate. But me thinking so hard about how to say the correct name, I actually forgot what I was going to say after it. So me getting that right was a detriment. But no, I mean, if you go back, I think it's tricky. The best gaming console launch lineup is actually a really tricky thing to say, because you could look back at the N64, which only had like 4 or 5 games. I think the UK launch, it was 5 games. I think it was like Mario 64, Mario Kart, Turok, and some random bullshit sports title. And of course, of that launch titles, though, they are all phenomenally good games. Whereas you look at the PS1 launch titles, which again, there's a lot. The PS1 launched launched with a lot of games, and there are some freaking stonkers in there. Like Ridge Racer, for example, was amazing. I don't think Wipeout was. Maybe it was a launch title here in the UK, because we got the PlayStation a lot later than everyone else. So I think in the UK we might have had Wipeout.
Wipeout, was a UK developing company.
It was Psygnosis, Liverpool way, I think.
Yeah.
Which is really, really good. So it was surprising. There's a lot of titles, but it's a bit of a mixed bag. And famously, I always remember this. I remember the PS2 having a pretty crap launch title as well. I remember the PS2 having a lot of games, but it was mostly poo. Actually, I'm just looking at this now, and like, oh yeah, I mean, outside of, oh my god, Time Splitters and Tekken Tag, Street Fighter, it was a lot of guff. I remember the PS4 not long ago, that didn't launch with a great amount of stuff, did it really?
Except for Resogun, and Resogun was
Resogun's so good.
Yeah, that was the best launch game of the PS4 by far.
Yeah,
I think.
Pretty much.
And then Killzone Shadowfall was okay. Yeah, it was It was
and a lot
Killzone.
Of the, yeah. I mean, I thought it was really good. People hated it, but I really enjoyed Killzone. And of course, the thing about the PS4 launch, although it did have a bigger launch selection in some systems, a lot of it was stuff that had been HD upgrades from PS3. So you had Black Flag was on there, Ghost was on there, Injustice was on there. I like versions of games that already been out on other things that just tied up and put out on the PS4.
Yeah.
So I think the PS5 is a bit meh. Launch titles are a bit meh.
Besides Miles Morales, I mean,
Yeah. I mean, there's some good stuff. There's also some carryovers. Again, I would count Miles Morales as a carryover from the PS4. Watch Dogs is a PS4 stretch over game.
Godfall is tanking. That's what I've heard.
I've still not heard anything about it. I don't know. I can't really comment.
That well.
Is it not? Oh, that's a shame. Because that was their big go-to, wasn't it? When Sony was presenting, PS5 was launching, and here's Godfall, which is a launch title. That got a lot of coverage.
Yeah, they were pushing it a lot. It for me, it reminded me a lot of Warframe. Remember, because Warframe came out with the PS4 too.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's another example of ongoing games. I mean, Warframe is just over the years has been updated and. Yeah.
You actually introduced me to Warframe, and I played it a bit after that. Back in when living in Japan back in the day. But I hear now it's massive. I hear now that it's a very impressive game.
Yeah, from what I haven't played it in a long time,
no.
but what I've seen of it though, some clips and all, it looks completely different.
Than
what it was when it first came out. So yeah.
So, in terms of launch, I mean, there have been some quality launches, but also been some, pretty naff ones. But I think, again, as I keep talking about that era, that it's called the PlayStation era, and it really shouldn't be called that. I mean, don't get me wrong, the PlayStation was a massive thing, but that whole N64, PlayStation 1, I suppose a bit like a Dreamcast sort of era, That's amazing. Had some amazing launch titles, and that was when they finally twigged. It took a while because to twig that you need an amazing lineup to sell the consoles. Because prior to that, it kind of like they really didn't go all out on the launch titles. But that's cool. It's got me thinking. That's my retro topic: quality console launches.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Dan. So up next is our new and upcoming video game releases for the week of November 23rd through the 29th. And there are only 2 games on the list this week via Metacritic. So we have World of Warcraft Shadowlands. Yeah. Comes out on November 23rd for PC. So it's an expansion, of course. So, have you played World of Warcraft at all, Dan? I haven't played it.
No, never played a World of Warcraft game. No, not my cup of tea.
Okay. Well, anyway, Brave the Beyond, the veil between life and death is no more. With a single act of destruction, Sylvanus Windrunner has ripped open the way to the afterlife. Azeroth's staunchest defenders have been dragged into all-consuming darkness. An ancient force of death threatens to break its bonds and unravel reality. So it's a MMO, role-playing MMO. So on the 23rd, so the expansion. And finally, one other game on the list this week, Football Manager 2021. Comes out on November 24th for PC. It's exclusive to PC. So the manager is the beating heart of every football club. In Football Manager 2021, dynamic, true-to-life management experiences and next-level detail renews that focus on you like never before, equipping you with all the tools to achieve elite status. So those are the 2 games this week.
Is that it?
That's it. Yeah.
Wow.
Next week has 9 games so far. So a bigger week next week, but only 2 games this week. My choice, World of Warcraft. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right.
World of Warcraft.
I don't know. I'll go outside and go for a walk or something.
Okay. Yeah. Next week's a little bit bigger. I guess this is kind of like a really slow week before.
Well, isn't now like isn't this the original release window for Cyberpunk?
Yeah. Well, so the 19th. Yeah, the 19th was supposed to be
Right, so that's why there's
launch.
F4 coming out. Yeah, that explains that then, because everyone would have gone, woo.
Yeah.
So
So now it's the 10th. So
yeah.
Which is interesting because that's the same day as the Game Awards now. So
Okay.
So Cyberpunk cannot be a Game of the Year contender this year.
It'll get it next year. Don't worry.
Probably. Yeah.
Don't you worry about it.
Yeah, that's for sure. So now it is time to do our indie recording artist spotlight for the week. So this week's spotlight is on singer-songwriter and composer out of Miami, Florida, named Duce Williams, from his album titled Miami Folk, and the song is called Toasting All My Life.
Brilliant.
So I'm Expat2020, and for my co-host Dan, this has been The Arena, a multi-platform gaming news podcast. We hope to see you in the next one. So take care, everyone. Peace out.
See you.
Woke up this morning with the sunrise in my eyes, just like a new day, a breath of fresh air in my life. I don't know how, don't know why, but I'll be toasting all my life. My boots and briefcase are waiting at the door. My ride sweeter to meet the one I love. I don't know how and don't know why, but I'll be toasting all my life. Oh, it's sweeter the first time around. Oh, it's sweeter the time here and now. Oh, it's sweeter the first time around. Oh, it's sweeter the time here and now. I played the dice right and let the good times roll. One knee and one ring, forever it's our show. I don't know how and don't know why, but I'll be toasting all my life.